Calling user one, can you identify yourself?
You're gonna have to sit like that.
I'm just gonna plug it in.
Oh,
You sit in your chair.
Hello?
sorry. Audio would be helpful.
You think up to.
Calling user one, can
Hello?
you talk again? I hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Sorry, it was my problem on my side.
Oh, this is Gloria Miller.
Hi, Gloria. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Am I supposed to put this on FaceTime?
It's
I'm on my
WebEx.
phone.
You
Okay.
can share your video if you want. You don't have to. It's totally up to you.
Do I do that through FaceTime?
I believe it's just through WebEx itself, the app.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to download the app and set it up.
Oh, okay.
So I'm behind. Sorry.
No worries. We have each time we have people who call in and don't do the WebEx.
I
app piece.
had it on my laptop, but I didn't have a mic and all that. So I figured I would just do it this way.
I think a lot of people do it on their phone.
Yeah. I think Alyssa's popping popcorn. Alyssa on here yet?
She is not on yet. Oh, let's see.
She's popping popcorns. She's... Well, I already talked to her. I talked to Manny too, our alderman today too. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know Manny personally. So.
Our aldermen are good. Calling user two, can you identify yourself?
Because I'm not on WebEx.
I'll get a mouthful there.
It's too late.
For your laptop? You should log in with your laptop too, and you can get the sound on your phone.
Yeah, do that. I'm on 40%. I was afraid my phone would.
Calling user two, can you identify yourself? You should be able to unmute yourself. Calling user three, can you identify yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, Brian Alexander.
Oh, thanks. Are you calling user three?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I see you as calling user three. Can you identify yourself? N4?
Can you hear me now, Joe?
Yep. Okay, so you're calling user 4. Still don't know who calling user 3 is, but all the other calling users I've identified. Guess we'll wait a couple more minutes just to give people a little bit more time to see if anyone else hops on.
I'm technically challenged, Joe.
We all are. When it comes to Facebook, I'm just. Okay, I think I have all the call-in users identified. We'll wait till 6:35 to make sure no one else is jumping in, and then I'll get started, or we'll get started. Well, I guess we'll just get started now. Jason, I made you co-host. If you see people in the lobby, if you wouldn't mind letting them in. I do have panels up this time. I'm far more organized on my computer, and I should see it if it pops, but so thank you everyone who showed up. Thanks. We appreciate it, and we welcome you to our annual meeting. Covenants require that we hold an annual meeting March of every year, and so that's what we are doing. See, there we go. The agenda for tonight is we're going to go over budget, last year's budget, and this year's budget. Give you state of affairs where we are as an HOA today. Update on the lawsuit. Talk about some polls and surveys regarding the covenants we plan on sending out in the near term, and then talk about the community volunteer base. And everyone should have the ability to unmute themselves. So if you have a question, feel free to jump in and ask your question. We of course want to hear from you and answer your questions. So we thought this would be a good level setter. I'm guessing most people don't know that we have 5 plots of common ground, and our covenants, of course, mandate that we as the HOA maintain all of the common ground. So we thought it would be important to point out what that common ground is, because this is what is supposed to be mowed by our landscape company. So everything in green is common ground, and of course the pool is common ground A, and then the corridor along N behind Catherine's Cove homes and between, behind their homes, and then between Highway N, that's all mowed on both sides here. And then common ground B, which is referred to as the detention basin and utility easement, consisting of 4.31 acres. And then the other set of common ground, we have common ground C, which is behind my house, and I think all the way up to Jim's house, and all the way down to Carrie and Pete's house. Most of this is woods, but some area right in here next to Hampton Park Court is mobile, and then Common Ground D. Some of it right in here, again, next to Hampton Park Court, is grass and believed to be mowed by the company. And then the lot right next to Lot 48 or across from Jason Fallon, that lot is part of Common Ground D and mowed. And then Common Ground E, which is, that plot between this house, lot 79, and what we call lot 113. This lot is not actually labeled, but it was annexed into the subdivision via revision in the covenants by the developer at the request of the person building the home at the time, which may have been a Jackson home, I don't remember. But this is all the common ground, and all the common ground is supposed to be maintained by the HOA. And so we just wanted to level set everyone that there are 5 pieces of common ground, and those 5 pieces are maintained. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jason, and he's going to talk through our financials.
Yeah, so thanks for everybody for showing up, and we welcome everybody here. Joe, I
ask
see a
quick
caller.
question? You there?
Hang on, Joe. We have a call-in user too that's that's not in the meeting. Do they need to be let in? I couldn't figure out how to let them in.
There should
I'm
be a
trying to
let-in.
get onto my laptop so I can see what you're talking about, because it's not showing on my phone. And it's telling me the password's not good.
I think the password's on our website.
Well, I got the letter right in front of me, and that's what I'm using, but it's not letting me in. I can't see what you're talking about. That's my problem on my phone. I can only hear. When you talk about common ground, I'm sorry, I can't see it.
It will be released in the it's on our website now. If you go to the website.
Okay, so should I get on the website?
Yep.
Should I get on the HOA
and then it will be
website?
in the meeting minutes too. Like, this meeting is being recorded. I probably should have said that up front. The meeting is being recorded. All of our WebEx meetings are recorded so that people can go back and listen and watch. And everything you see on the screen is part of that video. But if you go to our website and then click on the covenants,
what's the website address? What's the website address?
www.whwhoa.org. I'll put it
WHWHOA.org. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, don't need to be a pain.
Oh, no worries.
But I want to see what you're talking about.
Yep.
And I couldn't see that common area, and I was trying to get on. Sorry, I don't mean to be a pain.
No,
Gloria, we'll give you just a couple. We'll just give you a minute here. We'll give you a minute.
Yeah,
okay.
it's thinking. It's thinking.
Okay.
So
there's a link, I think, on the website that should take you to like a WebEx login. So if you're doing it off your phone or even off your laptop, it should open on your laptop. It'll probably, if you don't have WebEx, it will download like a web.
And you don't need a download. You can just click on the browser. I logged in on the browser. I didn't have to put in the password.
That's what I'm trying to do, but it's just
We did
thinking.
too,
It's
really
got
quick.
Squiggly, just moving across the screen. So, but go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt the meeting, because I can't see anything on my phone. All I can do is hear.
Okay.
And respond.
I'll try to announce the numbers, the big ticket items. We're just going to roll over,
Okay.
and we will be posting all this information. We can send it to you, whatever. We are.
Yeah.
So here we have. Here we have the 2025 actual. So these are numbers that were provided by IPM at the end of the year. So we can show where we ended up last year in 2025. So we had our same assessments that we're trying to collect is 45,200. We received 44,400, so we were short 2 assessments worth of income last year.
Okay.
We got a little less in our Quiver River capital than we planned on, about $17 short, but that's all of our income. It's just from obviously from our assessments from every lot, 113 lots, right, Joe?
Yep, 113 lots. And since Gloria can't see, there's late fee income and interest income. So the actual income for last year is higher by about 350 or 400 than it was budgeted to be, based on the interest and
Right.
late fees that IPM charged.
Yeah. So, Joe, we can go ahead and I think we can go ahead and move on. This is showing the first half of our budget. Management fees was, $7,000. Tax prep was $525. Postage was $350. Insurance was $3,300. So, Joe, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. We'll just kind of
Okay.
skim through this a little bit. The big one. So, pool operation and management, that was 63. It turned out 6,700. They planned 6,300. They spent 6,700 last year. And then we had some maintenance. They call pool maintenance. They spent 2,500. Oh, I'm sorry. So I kind of read that a little bit backwards. So we spent 6,300 last year in pool operation and management. Pool maintenance, we spent 2,560. So we went over budget by about $500, 560. And then another big ticket item was electricity. Electricity, I was kind of surprised that we spent almost $4,000 in electricity between the pool house, the pond, and the signs. We have three Quiver River accounts, or 3 meters, I suppose I should say. Charter Wi-Fi for the pool house. That's for the cameras, I believe. So we have $1,300 we spent there. The water bill, $2,800. Plan on spending $2,700. And then our biggest bill is the lawn and landscape. So that's kind of why we want to go over the show everybody so everybody's clear on what it exactly we're doing with this lawn and landscape, because it's our biggest bill by far. It's our $12,000 a year for a contract. So yeah, there's a lot that they're taking care of. I did not realize it as much as they were taking. I only see the part that I see get mowed by my house. So I thought that was interesting. So we came up under budget, or over budget rather, by $3,620 last year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we spent $49,210. We budgeted $45,590. Go ahead, Joe.
Can we go back to that slide right before that? The math doesn't add up. So your lawn maintenance and landscaping was $12,708. You budgeted $12,000. The difference isn't 504, it's 708.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the reason for that is I pulled this off of IPM's PDF file, converted it to Excel, and then last night realized that their numbers were incorrect for lawn maintenance because honestly, I have no idea. I don't know how she got off, but it was 12 equal payments of $1,059, and she had it $200 less. And so I corrected this 12,000 number, and I corrected this total, and I corrected the total overage, but I clearly forgot to upgrade this 504 because none of this Excel spreadsheet is formulas. It was pulled off a PDF file. And so when I went in and edited and upped this to 12,708 like it was supposed to be, I did forget to update this 504. It should be 708. But this 3620 is accurate because I did do a summation, I believe. And does seem to reflect what 49 minus 45 is, roughly 4, minus the 2 and the 5, it's approximately 3620. But you're correct that that number is incorrect, and I can update it for the final slide deck. It won't be in the video, but I'll update it as part of the meeting minutes, and this slide deck will be in the meeting minutes, and it will have the accurate number there. Does that
Any other
answer your
questions?
question?
Yeah.
Good point out.
Yeah, good
When
eye.
was the last time that we put the maintenance, the lawn mowing and that out for bid?
This year.
This
The
year,
contract,
we,
yes.
okay,
The contract only went, Runyon had the contract last year, and I think they had it for a 3-year term, and it expired end of year, and IPM advised us that we need to go out for bid this year. So we went out for bid to 3 companies, inclusive of Runyon, and the board down selected to Runyon because they were the cheapest by far, and we were really happy with their
okay,
service last year. So
okay.
they're gonna, I
Just,
believe it's
just curious.
another 2 or 3-year contract with them. Signing more years with them gave us a better price overarchingly. So it's much higher to do a
Okay,
single year contract with them, but to do a 3-year, we got several $100s cheaper each year. So it came out better for the neighborhood, especially compared. I mean, one of the bidders was like double the price. So, and I think the other bidder was, was close, but was not as low as Runyon was, and we've not heard any complaints about Runyon from anyone. We personally haven't seen any issues with their service. So
okay. And now the charter spectrum, are we going through the business route? Because I know their Wi-Fi on the business is a lot cheaper than if you and I have it. Just didn't know if we were going through the business
it's a
section
great
to get
question. We don't
the
have an
business.
answer today,
Okay,
but
just
we have considered going to see if we can switch to fiber gateway or gateway fiber, because gateway fiber is much cheaper per month. I think we can save like $600 or $700 a year if we switch to them.
oh
But
wow,
we had a
okay,
lot of
yeah,
issues to work through the first 4 months, and that ate up a lot
yeah.
of time.
Oh, I get it.
So
Oh,
it,
yeah, and I appreciate everything you guys have done. I just, was just throwing that out there.
no, I think it's a good throw out. We've been talking about it since December about switching and seeing if we can't get a better price somewhere else or even through them. But with everything else, but yeah, it's a planned. We
Okay,
plan on addressing that in the coming months and trying to lower that bill.
okay.
Any other
All right, Mark.
questions?
Yeah, any other questions before we move on? Okay, we'll move on. Just pie chart. So yeah, that's a little tough to see there. At least I'm having trouble seeing it. Let me.
Oh, on your phone?
There we go. No, I'm on the computer, but
Oh,
I
okay.
need to. I was able to make an adjustment here. So landscape is 28%. Pool is 23%. Those are obviously our big ticket items. The management fee is pretty significant in our budget as well. Community financials has been a pretty helpful company as far as managing getting things out and in. They provided multiple free webinars on training officers. It's been a really good experience so far with community financials. Very, very good experience.
And as a reminder, this is IPM's fee because this is 2025.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes. So, yes, 2025, this is IPM's fee of 15%. So, yeah, I think next we're pretty close. Other is 12%, mailings. And go ahead, Joe. We'll slide on to the next.
Man, every time I let someone in, it doesn't let me move on the on the PowerPoint slide.
Yeah, and this was just a slide I wanted to throw up that to show you, like, these are the real numbers. This is a screenshot from SmartWebs, which is what we use. All 3 of us can access. This is how we see the bills, pay the bills, how we look at our accounts. That is a screenshot of our current bank account as of I think the 22nd is when I took that screenshot. So that's our money sitting right there. $51,259.88 is the most accurate number. That's, with some checks that have been sent out that have not been cashed yet. That's why the 55 is below it and larger. So we are operating off of 51,000 right now. So.
Okay.
All right, 2026 budget. So it's very similar. We have same amount hopefully coming in, working with 45,200. Fines and fees credit from 21-25.
So we had there was a number of ledgers
Yes.
given to us by IPM of potential, I don't know how to, IPM has gone on a fine and fee frenzy over the 5 years that they were our management company, and charged insane amounts of money to our members and kind of came up with their own fines and fees, not per anything necessarily in the covenants. And so talking to our lawyer, as well as looking at what other board members have done in the past, we looked at the fines and fees and determined which ones were acceptable and which ones were not. And that resulted in several people having overpayments for, if you added up their entire ledger, they overpaid their dues, and that resulted in a net loss of income this year for $282 based on people who overpaid. And so just trying to do the right thing by members and ensure that members are not, find things that are outside of our covenants. And again, we spoke to our attorney about this to make sure that what we were doing was legal and ethical and whatnot. And using his advice, we went through these ledgers. And so our capital for this year is 44,917, would have been 45,200, but with the credits that we gave out based on the explanation I just gave, that's why we're off by $282 this year.
And I'd like to just note that we looked at all of them. That was, part of our responsibility as a board is to look at all of them. And, there was some pretty long history there. We went way back in history for each person individually and took time out to really consider what they had actually paid, what they had actually written checks for and deposited versus what they owed and the time frames. And we've combed through a lot of years to come up with that decision. So it was not taken lightly. It was not taken quickly. It was multiple conversations.
I think it spanned like a month and a half of board meetings that we discussed it, as well as our personal time into digging into the records to ascertain what truly had, to the best of our ability. We don't have ledgers for, most of the years going backwards. So, especially some of these, I think, went as far back as like 2017. So we don't have access to those ledgers. So, we did the best we could, but based on the information at hand, this is what we arrived at after, like Jason said, multiple meetings, discussions, and our own personal diggings into.
Yeah. So management fees were just a tick higher. It was like $9 more a month for the base price for the management for community financials. Like I said, we have a multitude of people that we can access. Software we log into ourselves. It requires 2 board members to approve payments to go anywhere. Just a tremendous difference than everything funneling through one particular individual. Let's hit the high level ones here. Insurance again, $33.25. We're hoping that this year we don't have as many issues with the fountain repair. That was kind of one of the bigger ticket items last year. So I think we got a new fountain from what I could ascertain based on the bills and talking to the guy that put it in. So hopefully we don't have as much fountain maintenance this year. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Lawn and landscape, very similar, 12,500. We put some money in there for repairs, irrigation repairs, and ground maintenance. We have not gotten into our money spending season this year. We haven't opened the pool yet. Just getting really, it's just mostly been the landscape that we've been paying the bills on, the electric bill. Those are the main items that we've had to spend so far. So we haven't had to spend a whole bunch of money yet. So right now it looks like we're close to balance. We're budgeting 134 short. So hopefully we can stay on track. Any questions about any of those slides there? Okay, we'll keep moving. Yeah, so our management fee is up just slightly. Our landscape's up, I think, just slightly from previous on our beautiful pie chart there. Other is down, right? I think that's a bit lower number. We're trying to get the other, meaning like maintenance items. Joe and me and Jim are trying to do what we can to do things ourselves. Jim and I are planning on putting the fountain back in. So that was a significant cost we had been paying somebody to do. I'm trying to fix the floodlights that shine on the signs. We're trying to do that at the lowest cost possible, and volunteer our time for that. So we're trying to save where we can.
Any
All right,
questions
next
here?
slide.
So state of affairs, 2026 assessment status, 80% of our members have paid, 26 members are left to pay. We're going to give till May 1st to pay this year simply because we sent out the bills late, and I think there was some confusion up front with members not exactly knowing how to pay. And so, but come May 1st, if you haven't paid, we'll be reaching out, and we're going to follow the covenants. The covenants say that, reach out, and if member doesn't pay, you put a lien against their house. So it should be noted, IPM has never filed a lien against anyone in this neighborhood. When they took over as management company, they canceled all the liens that were out against members and transferred those liens into fines and used a fine and fee schedule that they made up on their own. And so any previous board members who requested a lien against somebody's house, those liens were never filed. There's no record of IPM ever filing a lien. I personally verified it myself at the record of deeds, I think in December, early January timeframe. So we will actually be following the covenants. If members don't pay, liens will get placed against their home, and when they pay the dues, the liens comes off. And for those who aren't aware, if you go to the records of deeds and look this up, you'll find that there are approximately 90 liens that have been issued since the neighborhood started in 2005, 2006. So the previous boards have utilized liens to get our dues paid. And that is just the standard way of operating. And it's been operated that way the entirety of the neighborhood. And we just plan on picking up where previous boards left off before IPM took over and did, their own thing. And then IPM did transfer our HOA money to us. They did it in 2 payments, end of December, $4,100, and then pretty much end of January, $22,000, for a total of $26,589. However, IPM also didn't pay all of our bills last year, and so we had to pay those bills this year, which lowered that $26,500. They, for reasons unknown, did not pay Runyon for their September bill, and we have verified that in the ledgers that we have from IPM. And Runyon is the one who notified us that they were short that payment. And then the St. Charles County pool license was due to be paid in November, and they just didn't pay it. So I paid that and got them to waive the late fee that they added. But those 2 amounts go against the $26,500 that IPM gave us. So really IPM gave us more like, $25,400. So less than we thought, but the board has verified based on the information we have, that the transfer they made does appear to make sense and, based on the information they provided. However, IPM has refused to provide us, an electronic ledger. So, we can't with 100% certainty tell you that number is correct. And there is nothing we can do currently to fulfill like 100% knowledge on that, because IPM to date has not provided us, I would say, half of the information we requested. They have provided us our files and those files on both boxes. We have 2 boxes of files as well as electronic files, but there's stuff that's missing. We've identified stuff that's missing, and we've asked multiple times, inclusive of this week, for an electronic ledger to be provided. IPM just does not provide us a lot of the things we ask for. So this is the best we can do, but it is a good chunk of money, and hopefully they didn't hold anything back, but we can't guarantee that because we can't verify it. But this is what we can verify, and we at least feel comfortable with this number in the sense of the information at hand, if that makes sense. Any questions on this slide? Okay. Forward financial look. So IPM paid us 26.5. Like I said, ending balance in 2025 was 25,375. We've received 34,700 in paid dues. There's 10,186 left to be collected, bringing our operating capital to 44,917. This quarter, the first quarter of the year, we've spent $10,000. Runyon, a large part of that is Runyon. Runyon bills us monthly instead of charging us 12 grand up front. They bill that over the course of 12 months in equal payments. So we've paid Runyon for January, February, and March, even though not a lot has been done. However, they did, if anyone saw, they did come out and mulch all the beds and trim back the grasses and do the maintenance that their contract requires. I saw them do it. Jason and Jim saw them do it, and I'm sure multiple other members of the community saw them do it. So they have done some things. I don't believe lawn mowing has started. And then our insurance bills us monthly instead of a lump sum at year's end. So, and like Jason said, we have electricity, and that runs actually pretty high each month. It's pretty surprising. But that's how much we've spent this first quarter. Unspent plan budget. So, as Jason said, we projected, what's left in our budget based on, what we previously presented is 37.5. And then our year-end projected budget balance is negative 2,600. This is mostly due to the fact that we hired an attorney to deal with the lawsuit issue and several other issues that we need resolved and that cost money to do, and was not fittable into the budget, so it pulled out of what we got from IPM. And so the 2026 projected ending balance for our bank account is 22,709, based on the numbers at hand today. And then, as Jason said, him and Jim, they've been doing a lot of work on fixing the front lights, and Jim has received for free from a friend some cabling to do the front lights, and Jason's gonna wire it. For those who don't know, Jason's a professional HVAC repair guy and has a lot of electricity, electrical working experience, and knows what he's doing. And so he's going to be working on fixing these things in the front to make them work. So again, we're trying to do everything as cheaply as possible, save the neighborhood as much money as possible. That's why we're doing all our own mailings. For those who don't know, management companies charge $1 a page as well as postage. So to mail out letters would cost hundreds of dollars if we utilize that, but instead we do it ourselves, and it costs us, you know, postage and $30 a month. So we're really saving a lot of money, working to save the neighborhood a lot of money, and always looking for ways to save money. Any questions on this? Okay. I'm sure many are wondering what happened to the covenant amendments that were voted on last year. So we've taken this to the lawyer. He's looking into whether or not IPM's handling of the amendments was legally valid. There are a number of issues that are present that specifically violate Missouri law and our covenants, and we are asking the lawyer to look into it to determine whether or not those amendments were valid. And we're expecting an answer in May. And so as soon as we have an answer to that question, we will provide it to the neighborhood. And of course, anything that, you know, if it comes back that all of the amendments are invalid based on how it was handled, we as a neighborhood, you know, can pursue doing those covenants if that's what the neighborhood wants. It's certainly not off the table simply because it was mishandled, but we want to make sure that we do the right thing and follow the law as well as our covenants. And so that's what the lawyer's looking into. And then there's been a big question on covenant enforcement. For those who don't know, the brief summary is that this neighborhood was built by Jackson, R&K Builders, and one other, I can't remember the name of the other company, but they only did like 7 homes, but Jackson and R&K were the main builders, and there was a developer involved. Titan, yes, that was the third builder, and then Drake something was the developer, and they had a set of covenants that were supposed to be followed. When they all went bankrupt, a bank became the holder of all the properties remaining in the neighborhood, and they ended up selling those properties to McKelvey, and McKelvey refused to follow the covenants, and the neighborhood tried to fight it for 2 years because we wanted, you know, them to follow the covenants. And so there are approximately 40 homes in the neighborhood whose roof pitch violates the covenants. Obviously that can't be fixed unless you tore, you know, half your house apart, which is ridiculous. And you know, there are a number of homes that don't have the 50% requirement of stone or mason work on them, as well as, you know, some other things. And so those covenant restrictions, speaking to the lawyer, they cannot ever be enforced against anyone in the future because of the fact that those things exist. And so we do have a number of other restrictions that, you know, aren't being enforced or haven't ever been enforced. And so there also appears to be members as well as previous board members who have varying opinions on what should be enforced. Some believe everything should be enforced. Others believe only, you know, big ticket items that affect home value should be enforced. And of course, that's subjective, but state law requires that all the covenants are enforced. And so our lawyers suggest that we revise the covenants to remove those restrictions that can't be enforced, as well as those restrictions that the neighborhood members just believe are not value added or that they don't want to enforce as board members, because of course enforcing these requires time and, you know, is it worth it, etc. And so more to follow on the following slides, but we're going to try to work with the members and a lawyer to see if, you know, covenant amendments are necessary to help resolve the problems, so that we can get to a place of unity in the neighborhood where everyone is compliant with the covenants, and, you know, the covenants can be equally enforced against everybody. And so that is something we are undertaking as a board, and it's going to be more focused in the coming months, since I think we've cleaned up most of the mess that IPM left us. Any questions on these 2 slides? Alrighty. There are some landscape. Oh, yep.
Are you saying that IPM filed the amendments that were voted on last year? Is that why it's relevant that a lawyer's looking into the handling of that?
So what ended up happening is IPM provided last year's board a vote count. The vote count is in question. It does not include at least 13 votes that I'm aware of that were provided in writing to IPM with signatures from members. Those were disincluded in the final counts. And the board last year chose to not do anything with the amendment status provided by IPM. I could only speculate, which I'm not going to do. They never explained it to us, and frankly, I haven't seen any emails discussing it with IPM either. Simply put, IPM asked them, are you punting this to the next board? And the general sense was yes. And so it's been punted to us to ascertain how to handle it. And so given the fact that I personally am aware of a number of state laws that IPM violated in the handling of this, inclusive of misinformation in the summaries, I, in good conscience, cannot say, yep, we're going to approve these because you didn't include 16 votes that were clearly provided to you. You have all these other issues. And so we need to have, because amendments are voted on by members, right? That's a big deal. Members voiced, at least some members voiced their thoughts by their votes. So we can't just go in and nullify that based on our own belief, because that would be nullifying your voices. We need to have assurance from a lawyer on what the right step forward is. So if the lawyer comes back and says, all these things pointed out don't invalidate the vote, then we will approve what got approved and notify the members of such. If the lawyer comes back and says, nope, this was incorrect, then we will move forward accordingly. We just need an attorney to tell us. We don't want to do anything incorrectly. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but is there I guess then will there be a follow-up on that as to where, what the decision is or what
Yes.
the board discovers?
Yes, we will provide a letter to the members explaining, either the lawyer will write up a letter explaining his decision, or we will, or it will be both. It could very well be similar. I don't know if you read the letter that, or hopefully received the letter that we sent you last month, or I think the beginning of this month. I think 3/9 we mailed it. It included a letter from the attorney as to why we dropped the lawsuit against Hogan, which I think is 1022 Morgan Meadow. 1020, sorry. I think 1020 Morgan Meadow, the lawsuit was against, and the lawyer provided a write-up as to why he was recommending to us that we drop the lawsuit. And so we would do something, similar. I would expect that the lawyer would write up the reasons why the covenant amendments are valid or invalid, and then we will provide that to the members with, the decision. And then if the members decide that they want to bring these back up as amendments, then we will handle it, appropriately and hopefully not misstep like IPM did.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
So just as a quick follow-up on that, you've referenced working with a lawyer multiple times on multiple things over multiple days. But I believe on the budget, we had zero money budgeted for legal fees, and we're already operating at a deficit. We operated at a deficit last year. We can't continue to keep operating as a community on a deficit. And these legal fees, they're going to pile up. Unless you know a lawyer that works for free, I don't. That's going to cost a lot of money that we don't have.
So right now, I believe we've spent $2,100. When we spoke to him last, we had spent $2,100 of our $2,500 retainer. So far what we're getting has been very value added and very timely spent. I'm actually quite surprised how much we've gotten so far.
How about they just remove the fence? Anybody think about that?
What's that?
Why don't they just remove the fence and it'd be all good?
I'll address that in a second, David. I'm going to finish answering. I think it was 1015 Morgan Meadow. So the board's plan is to wait until the June, July timeframe and get a better understanding of where we sit budget wise. You know, we're just coming on, and we want to get a good feel of how much we're spending each month, because we do not have really full ledgers from previous years, and we cannot run any reports off the ledgers from previous years. So we just want to get our feel, you know, our feet wet a little bit. And once we have that understanding, we're gonna dive in and determine what if we need to raise the dues. I would suspect we need to raise the dues. If you look back historically, I think we've been spending 2 or 3,000 in deficit for years. So the budget is really tight the way it is. We tried really hard to be a balanced budget this year, and we did end up positive until we did the reconciliation with the ledgers that IPM provided. And after we did that, we were, you know, 100 in the hole instead of 100 positive. So having worked it, I mean, I very much don't want to raise the dues. I don't like that concept, but you know, reality is I don't see how we don't. So we'll be doing some analysis and research, and you know, possibly engaging community financials if necessary to gain better insight. But yes, we totally wholeheartedly agree. We cannot stay operating in a negative, you know, in a deficit, and we plan on resolving that and bringing that to the members for a vote. And I think that's how we resolve it. And then we do agree there are expenses with an attorney. And so, you know, if it's just, you know, our plan, at least right now, our plan is that, you know, if we do pursue covenant amendments, that we bring that to the members and apprise them of approximate cost. The last time we did amendments on the covenants, I don't think we spent more than $5,000. I'd have to see if we have records of that. That was like 2010 to 2012 timeframe. And this, our attorney, I am watching time and trying to be mindful of that. Our attorney that we hired is very, very unique. He is a boutique attorney who only works HOA stuff. For the last 20 or 30 years, that's all his business does. They do not handle legal matters of any other kind other than HOAs. And he's also a member of one of the national HOA associations. So he has a great deal of experience, and I think very cheaply actually can help us modify covenants that need to be modified. And we've already asked him for examples, and once he has a better idea of where we're trying to go, you know, he can provide that. And you know, we can do a lot of the writing on our own. I wrote a lot of the previous set of covenants. As far as compiling, we didn't do a lot of rewriting. We just compiled and resorted and stuff. But I have a lot of requirements, contract writing experience, and so we plan on doing a lot of that work ourselves and having it checked by an attorney and the members to save money. But yes, we wholeheartedly agree. We need to look at that. Does that answer your question? 10-15?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so David, regarding the fence, the lawsuit had nothing to do with the fence. And no liens were ever put against that fence either. They were all fines. They were all random fines. If you read the letter from the lawyer, he explains in great detail the number of issues that the lawsuit brought. In fact, the claims in the lawsuit were false, and the ledgers and information IPM provided us indicate that the claims made were false based on IPM's own information. So lawsuit had nothing to do with the fence. And it's in the meeting minutes from 2020. There are multiple neighbors in this neighborhood who violate the fence requirement height, and nothing has been done against them, only against 1020. The lawyer concluded that it was a personal attack against 1020 and had nothing to do with anything else. And you know, a lot of fraudulent claims were brought against 1020, false claims that can be proven false by IPM records. So we do not have any intent right now to do anything against 1020, because if we did, we'd have to go against at least 7 other people. To be fair, we can't just discriminate against 1020 because they have a fence that was put up by the builder and approved by the developer. And that's a piece I think a lot of people don't understand. That fence has been in place since 2006 when R&K built that home as a spec home. That fence has always been up, and Sarah
That's
Size,
crap.
2005.
That is crap. That is crap. There was a rental. There was somebody that lived there. They took the fence when they left.
that's
These
actually
people
not
Bullshit, they
valid.
did not take the fence.
You can prove it out.
It was never
through-
taken. And besides that, it was knocked down. Prior to that, this first owner, the neighbor's trampoline fell into it and broke it, and it was repaired at that point.
Okay,
The
well,
last
I'm gonna
lady
go ahead
that
and
sold
buy
it to
it.
this lady.
I'm gonna buy an above ground pool this week.
Cool.
I mean,
You
the
clearly
thing
don't
is,
know what you're
David,
speaking about.
The thing is, David, you can't discriminate against one homeowner when there's 7 others doing the same thing. And Jim has been here since 2006 when the neighborhood was established, and Sarah Size very shortly thereafter. Sarah backs up against that house, and Jim sees it every day. They can verify that that fence has always been up. So, and if you
We
go
got
to
pictures, and I
Zillow,
can show you an MLS listing from 2005 with a picture of that fence in it.
yeah,
It was built then, and it was signed off by the 3 developers then, grandfathered, whatever you want to call it, they let it go.
You're wrong.
Besides the fact
It's
that-
not the same fence.
Bullshit.
Okay.
we've spent months digging into this, David, and both Sarah and Jim will attest that it is the same identical fence that has always been there. And
Wrong.
if it, well, you don't live there, so I'm going to go with the people who live next to the fence and see it every day versus someone who lives, on Catherine's Cove who doesn't venture out that way. You look at the listing.
As a matter of fact, I do venture out a lot.
Okay. Well, if you look at the listing on MLS, when that person bought that home, it shows the fence fully erected. So that doesn't support the claim either. It wasn't torn down then. And is it a
Been
messy
rebuilt before
situation?
then.
Sure. But why is that one person being targeted? If we're going to tear down 6-foot fences, there are 7 other 6-foot fences we got to tear down. So you're going to have a lot of pissed off neighbors. And the thing is, the height restriction was not included in the original covenants. So that fence, when it was built in 2005, that fence was legit. The height restriction came in the 2011 revision. So, and we can talk as a neighborhood about, removing that fence height requirement since there's at least 7 people we know of that violate it. And it's documented in 2020 meeting minutes from the 2020 board that there was another member on Morgan Meadow Drive who had a 6-foot fence. And what were they going to do with the fact that it wasn't approved by the board? And nothing was done against that homeowner. But for some reason, the board went against 1020. So
Maybe I have the wrong address. I'm sorry.
there are multiple people on Morgan Meadow who have 6-foot fences. Or at least fences above the 48-inch requirement. And we've personally verified it as a board. We've gone out and measured those fences. So,
But I think it sets a bad precedence. I mean, like I said, why don't I go ahead and go buy myself an above ground pool today?
it is something we have to tackle as a neighborhood. Do we want a fence height requirement? It's posing a lot of problems because there are people in the neighborhood who have taller fences, and the fence we have against the pool is 6 foot. So, there was the builder never intended on having a height restriction. So do we want to go back to what the builder had, or do we want to keep it and grandfather the people in who are above it 48 inches? Like, how do we want to handle it? That's going to have to be discussed amongst the members because there are 7 homes that violate it currently. So if we're going to go after one, we have to go after all 7. Otherwise, we're going to lose in court. And suing over it, what do we sue over? They've already the lawsuit's been withdrawn, and it can't be brought up. It was withdrawn with prejudice. So it can't. No board in the future can go after the fake funds that IPM fined them, and IPM's fines were random, and the lawyer confirmed they were random. They make no sense. And the lawsuit, if you didn't read the letter, the lawsuit was $5,000 higher than the ledger IPM provided. I mean, the whole thing is like sloppy and messy. That lawsuit should have never gone. We spent money as an HOA to sue this person over falsely, false claims in the lawsuit that were easily proven wrong by IPM's own records. So, and IPM was the only witness that could be called, and their records proved the lawsuit wrong. So it was, we were going to lose for sure. And in fact, our lawyer told us he would have felt embarrassed and felt like the judge would laugh him out of court if he brought it. It was a sloppy mess, and it didn't address the fence. So, I think as a neighborhood, we have to determine, what do we want to do with fences? Do we want a height restriction? Do we not? And how do we handle those fences that currently don't comply if we do want to keep the height restriction? And make sure that we treat everyone fairly and don't go after a single person, because there are other people in the neighborhood who did not get approval and have a taller fence. And they're documented. I got the records from Leslie Padilla, I think last Thursday. She dropped off her records, and I was reading through the meeting minutes, and in 2020, they, like I said, identified another home on Morgan Meadow that also had a fence that was taller than the 48 inches. So, I hear you. I understand. I think, previous boards, from talking to, I've talked to Bob Trigg, I think the boards felt like they were doing the right thing. We're not coming against the boards. We're saying IPM made a mistake. They did random fines and never really addressed the fence. So, I think at this point, how do we handle fences? That definitely needs to be a conversation amongst the members, and possibly an amendment to the covenants.
And fines need to be discussed too. If we actually want to fine,
Yes.
that's what we want to do. We need to have a fine and fee schedule. Otherwise you can't take it. You won't win in court. It won't stand. That's the advice we got.
What I've understood through this whole time I've been here is pretty much I can do whatever I want. That's kind of what I get.
I mean, we can't stop you, and it really depends on what boards in power, or what board members are doing and what board members are seeing, and how board members decide to move forward. I think if you do an above ground pool, I know you're more or less kidding, but if you do an above ground pool, you're going to piss off all your neighbors, and we're going to get a bunch of phone calls, and you're going to get a lien against your house. But you put up a fence that doesn't bother anyone, no one cares, and we have countless people who aren't following it. How do we as a board ethically handle that? And that's what we're talking to the attorney about. And I think as members, we have to think about that. Like, how do we handle it? Because it's not just 1020 who has a fence too high. It's 7 other homes. So 8 homes in total in the neighborhood.
Okay. What about 2-story sheds?
We should talk about that, because sheds aren't in the covenants. It's approved by the board. And there are at least 3 sheds I'm aware of in this neighborhood.
All right, guys, it is 7:29. I think, are we good to move on a little bit here?
And David,
We
if
have
you want to have a
another-
future,
Is there going to be
Sure,
another
I'm
time?
just aggravated. It just aggravates me. That's all.
if you want to have a future conversation, I'm more than happy to get together with you. Jim's more than happy, willing, to get together. Any of us on the board are more than happy to get together with you to discuss it further.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
You're
I
welcome.
agree. I agree with that statement. You guys are welcome to email us. We'll talk about whatever. Nothing's off the table.
We'll get together as a board and talk to you. We can, whatever you want, we can talk about it further. But I agree with Jason. We probably need to move on. Gloria, you have a question?
Well, is there going to be a point after the meeting to have concerns?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll address my concerns then.
I'll try to go quickly through the rest of the slides.
Okay.
Let's see. So landscape upgrades needed. Anyone who's seen the front sees that it kind of looks like crap. Bushes are dead looking, and you can see the felt, or the liner that keeps the rocks out of the grass. And you drive down and or walk down that end corridor versus Catherine's Cove, it's ugly. So there's a landscape design firm who has donated a free design to us, so we're not going to pay for it again, saving the HOA money. And they're working up a design that will present to the members to vote on as a special assessment, most likely. We plan to hold a future meeting on it once we have the plan in place, and probably go out for bid from a couple places to, be able to present to the members the cost of that. It's really specifically around the front entrance, the pool landscaping. I know many people use the pool and care about, I think we all care about how the pool looks. I don't think any of us want the front of the neighborhood to look like crap. So we want to fix that. And then general maintenance of the corridor between Highway N and behind Catherine's Cove. That really is just holes and dead trees and crumbling rocks sliding down the hill and just stuff that needs to be resolved. With regard to the pool, IPM notified us that the pool needs to be recaulked and the tiling in the pool needs to be completely redone. The current pool company has given us a bid, but we are going to go out for multiple bids. Once the season opens and i.e. the pool cover is removed, then we're going to go out for bid. Can't get bid unless you can see the pool, and we're not going to take off the pool cover prematurely. So once we have all the facts and information on that, we'll present it to the members for a vote on how to handle that, because I believe the quote we have from the current pool company to do both the caulking and retiling is approximately 50 grand between the two. So obviously that would need to be a special assessment and voted on by the members. And the thought about repair time for it would be post-season so that the members can enjoy the pool without us going in, closing the pool for some amount of time to fix it. So that's on the horizon. You should be aware of it because, we were made aware of it. I know we've presented this before, but, just letting you know again. And then the retention basin where the pond pump, what we call the pond, Jason and Jim will reinstall that in the coming month or months, once we, I believe they plan on doing it in the next couple weeks. So again, that saves us somewhere between $400 and $800 based on what previous companies has charged. So,
Yeah, we're just gonna we gotta find a time to do it, and for us to meet up and manhandle it and rewire it and put it back in.
and then update on the lawsuit. So February 23rd, we met with the attorney in the afternoon, and then later met as a board. We unanimously voted to follow the attorney's recommendation to drop the lawsuit. For those who care about money, we were told that the amount of money we'd spend on the lawsuit would outweigh the amount of money we were suing for and that we were going to lose. So obviously dropping the lawsuit from a financial standpoint was the right move, unless people wanted a special assessment on a lawsuit that we were going to pretty much be guaranteed to lose. If you have questions, please first read the letter from the attorney. I know it's 3 pages long, but it's great detail as to why the attorney recommended we dismiss it. That letter is posted on our website, as well as it's on the front page of the website, as well as if you go to records and letters, and it's listed as I think the 3923 letter. If you have any questions or concerns about that, please reach out to us. We really want to make sure every member, do our best to make members feel comfortable. We understand some won't, be happy, but we do our best to make everyone happy. That's our end goal. And then in the coming months, we'll send out some surveys to gauge member interest on certain covenant restrictions based on our attorney's advice, and seek input, like Jason said, on fines, fees, and liens, because right now our covenants only allow for liens, but IPM was issuing a bunch of fines and fees. And, if we're going to issue fines and fees, they have to actually be called out in the covenants under a schedule so that members have a reasonable expectation of what they're going to be fined if they violate the covenants. We can't just make up fines and fees and assign them. So we need to review that as a community. That'll be part of the survey, and then we'll be seeking input on other amendment considerations. Everyone's got ideas. More people have ideas, better decisions we can make. So we'll be, sending those out. Email's the easiest. And so I would think most everyone here has given us their email address, but if you haven't, please give it to us because IPM's records were largely not right. And on top of that, they never provided us the list of members. And so we don't have an electronic list of the members. So it's really hard to know people's email addresses, and it's a lot of time to dig through past records to try to find it. And we're already putting a lot of time in on the board. So if you could just, take a few minutes to, email us, then we'll have your email address. We can add it and be done. And then Brian and Alyssa, I was going to have them speak, but given the time limit that we're hitting against, I'll just briefly go over it. We've had a number of people come to us saying that they want to volunteer and make the community better and more enjoyable to live in and bring more cohesion to the neighborhood. If you're a person who feels that way, please reach out to us. We'd love your help. Brian and Alyssa are going to be writing a newsletter. It's called the West Hampton Woods Herald. The first one's going to go out on Facebook, and after that, probably via email. The ideas they're thinking about that could be included. It's all fun. It has nothing to do with the board. Stories you might have, or photos, or recipes you want to share, or you got a new pet and you want to talk about it, or birthdays, or kids who offer babysitting, or lawn services, or other things like that you want to tell us about, or maybe you want to tell us that you have a small business, and we'll put a free ad in the newsletter for you. So just various different things to just bring fun and good-hearted spiritedness to the neighborhood. And then Alyssa Moore will be working to set up other events. I know she did the food truck event last year, and she again wants to do stuff like that this year. She's thinking an annual chili cook-off, as well as I think Gloria Miller has mentioned she'd like to have a group that plays bunco or euchre. So just trying to they're members of our community want there to be better cohesion in our neighborhood. And so these are some ideas that have been flowing. And so these are some things that will be going forward. This is not board related. The board doesn't really have say in it, but we think it's a good idea and we want to bring it to the members. And if you have ideas to submit about the newsletter, you can use this link that's provided here. You can always reach out to the board. We can put you in contact with Brian or Alyssa. But we're excited to see other members excited about our community. A lot of us have lived here a long time, and we want to see this neighborhood continue to go right direction and be cohesive. So, big thanks to them for their volunteering to, make our neighborhood better. And that is the end of our presentation. I know we've gone 8 minutes over. Anyone who wants to stay can. I know, Gloria, you had a question, so I'll turn it over to you first.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Am I unmuted? Okay. So I had a couple things. First off, this fountain and this second lake, how do you get to it? Is it available to the people who don't back up to it? Is there a way to get to it?
So I don't know if you can see our slides yet, but in the presentation, you can.
Yeah, I can see them now. Yeah, I'm on. I'm on.
So this lower lake here detention basin pond thing in this easement of Common Ground B, if you go to the edge of Morgan Meadow, right next to Tommy's house here on lot 27, there's about a 50-foot gap that's common ground. You can walk in there. We've heard from a number of neighbors, they don't care if you walk through their yard to get to the pond. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard from others. And then the other way to access it is if you go down Catherine's Cove. There's this access point here between Lance's house and lot 8. I don't remember. Lawrence, I think the Lawrences. So between their two homes, you can access it, and then you can walk. It's actually, it's almost 5 acres. It's pretty huge. So you can walk that.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
I know. It's hidden by all these homes. Those of us who've been here.
Well, I'm told that Catherine's Cove at the end of that the gentleman that lives there tells people that you can't walk through there. private
So
property.
that individual sold his land off to the builder who built the subdivision that connects to Morgan Meadow. And so
Right.
you can access that lake either by going
Okay.
through the common ground up here at Morgan Meadow or here. You can walk to that upper lake. Really, the only way to access it through the common ground is to really go next to Lance's house, because there was about 50 yards of shore cleared right next to his house. And that's pretty much
Okay.
the only area on our common ground that accesses it. But if you walk down
Okay.
Morgan Meadow further into the new neighborhood, they have a lot of common ground that
Hey, Joe,
provides easy access. Yep.
Oh,
just
okay.
to clarify, I don't think it's next to Lance's house. It's Lance's neighbor. Lance has got homes on both sides of him. So it's the
Correct.
home at the very end of the cul-de-sac that the green
Oh,
area, the common ground is next to. Lance has
Right.
homes on both
It's
sides of
Dave.
him.
It's
So,
Dave's house.
yeah, just
Oh,
want to clarify that.
okay.
thanks. I didn't know that. I thought Lance, so is Lance number 10 then? I thought he was 9.
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Lance
yes.
is 10.
Oh, well, appreciate that. I did not know
Okay.
that. So I guess it's whoever
Well,
owns
9
this
is
place.
Okay.
Metzger.
Yeah, the home at the very
Okay.
end, it would be to the, I guess, the west or the left side on the map of them.
Yeah, and it's
Okay.
almost like a lot size amount of common ground, right?
I
It's
believe
actually pretty
after
skinny.
the court date, I believe it became 25 feet between Dave's house and the Lawrences,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. All right.
So
I
I
just
mean,
would like to see what this looks like, and you know, 'cause I've never seen it. So, okay. And
It's
then I have.
beautiful,
A,
and I just because I have the mic and I've never done this, it's beautiful, and I would just want to say that, and this, don't, please, no one take this as I'm not saying that my home is any better than anyone's. There's a lot of beautiful yards in our neighborhood, a lot of yards that back up to wonderful woods and have great lots. The pond, though, is very important, I think, to our neighborhood and keeping it up, because it does, from a sale point of view, it's a desirable, those homes are desirable because of they back to a pond, and a lot of people like that when they buy a home. So that does drive value for all of our homes in the neighborhood. So it is an item
okay.
that I think the HOA should continue to, and they should continue to just keep monitor of that and not make it become a swamp pit, because that will, you know, scare people away, I'll say.
Yeah.
yes. And
So,
we fully,
Okay.
it's part of Common Ground B. And as the HOA, we're required to maintain all the common ground. So
and the
we
whole
don't have,
neighborhood has access to it. I mean, it is
yep.
not those 10 homes or however many there are. It's not theirs. It is common ground that
Right.
everybody can fish in. It's stocked. It's wonderful. So,
Well, and they talk about the fountain. I'm like, okay, I'd like to see what I'm helping to pay for.
sure. And I think just
Okay.
to clarify on the fountain too, it's not just a fixture. The way the previous or a couple boards ago presented it, I think there's always been a fountain. They did upsize it a couple years ago, and it was those and the aerators that were put in were to prevent the moss buildup, I guess, just to help agitation for, I guess, one, the fish, but also
Yeah.
to keep it from being a mosquito pit. I know they dye it as well. That helps the moss, I guess. There's probably a fee every year to dye it as well. The
Yeah.
board can speak
Okay.
to that, but I'm not sure.
I think the homeowners, from what we've heard over the years, a lot of homeowners have typically purchased that in the past themselves and dyed it,
Okay.
and put chemicals in it for that reason and purpose. We haven't seen it in past bills. Again, we don't have like a great way to look at the ledger because we don't really have a consistent ledger that shows the whole year, but we did not see any chemicals. But yes, there is an aerator, and we've spoken to landscape companies who deal with ponds and lakes and water features and stuff. If you don't have aeration, you're going to have a mosquito pit, just like you said, and you're going to have you know issues, and it's going to get ugly pretty quick. So, you know, nobody wants that behind their house. So, you know,
Yeah.
I think the aerator is important, and you know, I think the fountain is probably just for beauty. I don't think the fountain, I don't know if the fountain actually does anything, but the fountain I think does help force water movement and stuff, which probably helps with, you know, things not going stagnant and stuff. But I mean, just to be clear, the board has no intention of stopping, you know, the fountain or the air filtration. You know, like we said, it's part of the common ground being we have to maintain it. So
Okay. Another
Have you?
item I have is, are chickens allowed in the subdivision?
so that is a city ordinance and not an HOA issue. So no chickens are not allowed, no livestock are allowed in the neighborhood per city ordinance. So if you have an issue, I highly recommend reaching directly out to our mayor, Nick Gucciani. He is excellent. I've reached out to him multiple times regarding multiple issues over the years. He'll respond to you typically in less than an hour,
Mm.
and he'll hook you up with the right person to talk to. But it's
Well,
nothing
I've
that
already
the
spoke
HOA
to
can
our
do.
alderman. Well, yeah, actually, if it's in the HOA covenant, that those govern over the city. I've already
But
spoke
it
to
is a
our
city
alderman about it.
ordinance, and it, if you
But
read the covenants
but
closely, it says refer to the city about it. It's simply
okay, so
stated
there's
that we can't
nothing
have it in
in
accordance with the
HOA.
city.
Okay, okay.
Because I read it very
Also another.
specifically right in December because someone else was seeing chickens and reached out to us, and our covenants specifically state refer to the ordinance. It's not an HOA issue because it is a physical law that Wentzville enforces. So that is something, you know, like I told the person who reached out to us in December, you know, feel free to reach out to the mayor. He is super, he'll give you
Mhm.
his personal cell phone number if you reach out to him. I mean, he wants to answer your questions and he is very quick. So I would reach out to him about the chicken issue.
Yeah. Well, I talked to our alderman Manny, and he said Winsville passed that you can have chickens. So I'll talk
I'd
to him
still
further.
reach out to the
Okay.
mayor. He's really
Yeah.
good.
Also, what about the issue with people parking trailers and cars for lengthy times uh, on the streets that don't move?
I do believe that also is I would reach out to the mayor about that as well and ask for his advice. He'll tell you if it's,
So we don't have anything in the HOA covenants about parking trailers on our streets.
um, if it's a trailer, yes, you're not supposed, I believe it's not supposed to be in your driveway. I'd have to look up to see if it's can't be on the street,
Okay.
but it's also a city ordinance. I believe I think they're
Mhm.
required to only have it there like 48 or 72 hours and then it has to be moved. The
Did
city
you
cares
say
about
4
that for
years?
fun. What's that?
Did you say 4 years?
No, like 48 hours or 72 hours, I
Oh,
think,
48
you
hours.
know,
I see.
like
Okay.
like a
Sorry.
quick time period. Because, you know,
Okay.
parking vehicles in the street is a hindrance to snow plows and other emergency vehicles. And so the
Right.
city does not, you know, want those things. Um,
Well, I come from Whitmore, which had very strict HOA covenants. And here I'm going, okay, is this allowed? Is this allowed? So, okay.
and the covenants are
Um,
posted on our website under covenants, and
yeah.
it's the 2011 version, and that goes through all of these things. And feel free to reach out to us via
Okay.
email. I mean, we're more than happy to answer whatever
Okay.
questions you have.
Okay. All right. Well,
Hey,
I'm done with my question.
Marisha, you have a
hey,
question?
Joe, how you doing? Hey,
Good,
I
you?
was wondering, have we ever considered, like, just say maybe this season, have we ever considered, since we have these repairs for the pool, going a season where we do not open it so that we can have that surplus? Like if we did not have the pool, maintenance, the water bill, the higher electric bill from the pump and stuff, you know, Had you guys thought about that? Just taking one season and not opening it.
I believe we would have to do a member vote to close the pool for a year, because it
Hmm.
is an asset of the neighborhood and it is used. So I think if we did a member vote and the members decided to do that, that is certainly how other HOAs have handled pool repairs. I've seen, I've I've just done a lot of reading on HOAs in the past year, and there are plenty of neighborhoods who shut down their pool for 1 or 2 years to use that money and save it to cover pool repairs. It is certainly an option.
Yeah,
Um,
because we've been going through this at least the past 16 years, and the thing about it is that, I mean, I think that that's something to be looked at because if it takes us a couple years to do that, rather than to raise the HOA, you know,
it
that
wouldn't
might,
be, we wouldn't raise the HOA fee to do that. It would be a special assessment. So it would
Mhm.
it would be a one-time fee to cover the pool. It would not be a dues increase.
yeah. No, I was just saying overall, because our budget, we've been running a tight budget for years.
Yes.
And really the pond and the pool has, I mean, because we just finished a major job on the pool, reconcreting it and all of that, you know. So that was just a thought if we would
Yeah.
turn around and have, to improve our surplus too, just to do that for 1 year
I
and
think we would get a
make the
lot of
proper.
backlash, but there's also a lot of people who don't use it. We can certainly consider that as a board and bring it to the members. Um, I definitely think that there would be a lot of pissed off people if we did it. Um, but that's not to say that if the community decided that's what we should do, that's what we would do. To be clear, the water bill is irrigation. It's keeping the lawn and the plants alive. It's not water bill associated with the pool at all. And then also, just as a clarifier, the biggest electric bill comes from the pond. The fountain and the aerator cost the
Oh,
most money. It's like 3/4 of the electric bill is the pond, and the rest is the pool and the lights. But the majority of the electric bill comes from the pond pump and aerator.
okay. And the last thing is, did have Wentzville addressed if they were gonna repair the streets at all?
So I last heard, I spoke to one of the neighbors. They spoke to the mayor. It's a great question for the mayor. I believe I think by 2027, they plan on having all of our neighborhood completely repaired. Um, it has to do with they have so much budget given to them by St. Charles County and Missouri State and their own revenue. And there's a lot of neighborhoods that need to be repaired, but I believe the plan is that our neighborhood would be fully repaired by 2027. But that's based off recollection. I'd reach out to Mayor Nick Guccione, and he can best answer it. I bet you he has that answer off the top of his head because I know a neighbor of mine reached out to him in the last few months, and I think they spoke on the phone, and he explained the time frame.
Okay. And one more I just thought of. How many renters do we have in the neighborhood now?
One,
Okay,
it was
great.
it
Thank
was
you.
two last year, but they sold. I believe the only renter is on Hampton Ridge Drive. It is. Um, I believe it is lot 44 here, which is 319 Hampton Ridge Drive. I believe that is owned by HPA something or another. Um, they do rent that home out, but no other homes, per our recent check, are owned by a corporation or so. Now there may be a homeowner who owns a home and rents it. We would not have purview to know that unless they told us. But as far as like ownership, we're only aware of one person who rents out. And actually, now that I say that, we would know because it would show who lives there and the address. I mean, I checked a couple months ago, the address of each person who lives at each of these homes is the same address of where they live. So, you know, if someone was renting out their home, they wouldn't be living there, and their mailing address would be different than the address of the home in the neighborhood. And there's only one home in the neighborhood whose address does not match the neighborhood address, and that's lot 44, as far as I understand. Now, it could have changed in the last 3 months. I know there was a recent home sale, but that was sold to people. I'm not personally aware of any other renters.
And I love the bouncing back of ideas and saving money and stuff like that. But one thing to consider on that pool, if you let that set for a year, 2 years, when you go and fire up that pump and the mechanics, you're going to have major repairs that's going to offset anything you save by not running it for a year. And that's coming. I did not go to the pool one time last year, so it's not speaking from somebody because I want the pool to be open. Did not use it one time last year. It's just knowing, as being part of a board at another location, you let that pool sit, you're asking for trouble.
Appreciate that. Thank you. It's Todd, right?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
That's me.
I was pretty sure, but I couldn't remember exactly based on.
I mean, way to call me out, but yeah, that's me. So no, I'm kidding.
I know you have a lot of experience with your president. I think you're president of an HOA at a condo, right?
Yes.
So just so Mauricia knows, I know you're speaking from a place of experience. So it's a lot to consider. And then, you know, I think there's a concern from the members we've spoken to about the pool who use it and see it as a value added to the neighborhood, which you know is not an opinion shared by everybody. But those who have that opinion, I think if you close the pool for a year, those who feel that it adds to the home value would see that as a negative selling point for the neighborhood and could impact people selling their homes. So it's a lot to consider, but we can certainly bring it to the members. Certainly in the questionnaire we send out to, do you have, would you be, but I think too, like Todd is pointing out, I think we'd have to reach out to a pool company and ask them, like, if we have this pump off for a year, what does that mean for maintenance when we turn it back on, and make sure that we have a full assessment of potential problems to going that route. But I do know other neighborhoods have done it. But like Todd said, there's problems that can come up from doing it. So I think we need to get a better understanding from a pool company or maybe a couple pool companies what the issues might be if we don't turn it on for a year or two. As well as what we do with the water inside. Do we drain it then for a year? And what's the cost to bring all the water back? And how do we get rid of all that water all at once? I think those would be questions too. And then, what happens to the concrete in the pool? I think there's a lot to assess to, make sure that shutting down the pool for a year doesn't have a drastic negative impact to us later.
Well, I own a pool company, and basically, as long as you keep the cover on and don't drain it, you'd be good.
Okay. Appreciate that, David. Do you see any issues with the pump not running for a year?
I do not.
Okay. Any other?
When I had a pool before, all we did was winterize it properly. That's all we did. And it seems as though there's a pretty expensive liner up there, that kind of blocks, sometimes people try to do that and they have an inexpensive liner on, and that could be pretty bad if leaves and all that kind of stuff is going in. But I know that we used to just winterize ours because we eventually had ours filled in. But the pool is definitely a plus for the neighborhood because we actually had a member that moved because of that before. They said that when they, bought their home, it was actually why they bought a home here. And when that board member found that it seemed like people didn't really care about the pool, they kind of moved on, So it is definitely a plus because some people do not buy a home in a neighborhood because it lacks a pool. I just think that the neighborhood, I think that the pool size was based on before all the land got pushed back. Because it seemed like the pool is the size to really accommodate, you know, just the family homes on, at the very beginning of the subdivisions, not 113 families.
It is a very small pool.
Yeah, it's
If
like
you
a
look at,
bathtub.
if you look at other neighborhoods in the area, and the size of our pool is pretty tiny. And
It's 30 by 30 if anybody wants to know.
okay, and really too, the builder did not do a good job. They did not build on. It's my understanding they did not wait for the ground to settle, and so we've had a number of the issues we've had with the pool are because of Jackson, the developer, I guess, who put the pool in. It's a major bummer, but it was designed by the developer to be part of the neighborhood, and it was placed there by the developer for whatever reason they had. Why they sized it that, size comparatively speaking to other neighborhoods, I couldn't tell you, but it is what it is at this point. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Going once, going twice. Well, want to thank everyone who came. We know you gave up time in your night. If you have questions, please reach out. If you have concerns, issues, whatever, we have our email posted. We respond really quickly, and we're happy to meet if we need to meet or whatever. So, we're here to help and working to do the best for the neighborhood and save money where we can, and look forward to working with you guys in the future. And hope you guys have a great rest of the night, month, and week. And again, thank you for coming, and we appreciate you and your input.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate you doing.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good evening.